let's get to the Mount Rushmore. So we're going to do a Mount Rushmore of podcasts, of sports media podcasters, I guess probably figures in the industry.
Yep.
We
this is all time, right? Like, so bigger picture than just this year.
Right, correct. And so we're going to do a collective one because I think there are two spots that are pretty solidified. I think there's a third that is pretty firm. Although if there was a stronger alternative, I'd be open to ideas. And then the fourth, like I had trouble. I don't really have a strong fourth. Like I have a handful of options, but there is not.
Tell me those three you just said, because I had already messaged you. I think there's three locks already, and I wasn't sure if you would agree, but now it sounds like you do. So it makes me curious if they're the same or if we think they're locks and they're different.
So my locks are Pardon My Take and Bill Simmons. Those are my two like stone cold locks. Like I'm not doing this list if they aren't on it. My firm third is Pat McAfee. And
so we're on 100% the same page.
Okay, so Pat I struggle with because I've just never thought of Pat as a podcast. I've always thought of Pat as like a live show. I never knew anybody who listened to the Pat McAfee show as a podcast. I know people who watched it on YouTube and on FanDuel and now on ESPN, but I never knew anybody who's like, oh yeah, I'm catching up on yesterday's Pat McAfee. So that's the only reason I have him as like a distant third behind Simmons and Pardon My Take, because I think those two are more true to the form. Whereas I feel like Pat is just doing a show that also happens to be on a podcast.
And I think you're right. Like, Spotify has recently re-added numbers to its app where you can see how they have to be a certain size. It doesn't show you if a podcast has 8 listens or something, but like Pat rarely breaks like 25, 50K on Spotify versus some of these shows like Bill Simmons. Obviously that's kind of the home for his show, but like he'll break 1 million or 400,000 or whatever. So yeah, it's a YouTube show. It's an ESPN television product at this point, but I just think like the spirit of what we're talking about here is digital audio and video. And that is still what Pat is. And so, I think that McAfee has to be on there. Yeah. Pardon My Take. It's like both of their heads carved into one chunk of the mountain. I think you just have to have
maybe just Hank's head. Maybe just Hank.
Sure. Or some kind of Sora generated amalgamation of PFT and Big Cat together, whatever that might look like. One half has sunglasses, the other doesn't. I don't know. And then Simmons, which we already, sang his praises plenty. So who did you like? If I made you pick a fourth right now, who, gun to your head, is it?
So what I struggle with is I do feel like there needs to be a former athlete on the list. And I know we have Pat. But but Pat could be doing the Pat McAfee show without his NFL career. Like Pat is not there because of he's a
talent. Yeah.
Right. And so, Pat, I guess there is representation there. But again, like I feel like he doesn't really embody that aspect of it. And so I went down the list. Do you know who is like largely credited with the first athlete podcast?
The Knuckleheads?
From what I found, it was AJ Hawk. AJ Hawk had something called the Hawkcast that started in 2014, which is pretty early in the game for all of this. Everybody else was like 2017 on. If I was going to go the athlete route, though, I think the two I would be debating between are JJ Redick, because I found a Wikipedia page that was like former athlete podcasts or athlete podcasts. JJ Redick had like 5 podcasts. Like he was very clearly going for it. At some point in 2016, he decided I need to have a podcasting presence. He had a show called The Vertical. He had the JJ Redick podcast. He had The Old Man and the Three, which was obviously, I think, his most successful one. And then Mind the Game. Like JJ Redick really went for it. And I think he embodies at least what I'm going for. And then the other one would be Shannon Sharp, just because I think he reached heights that maybe nobody else reached. So I guess gun to head, I'd probably say Shannon Sharp, especially, if not for everything that went down earlier this year, who knows, I think he'd probably be the no-brainer.
Yeah, that obviously is hard to just removed from my brain just because his relevancy has taken a hit. It just isn't talked about because there's a kind of a black cloud over his operation right now. He also left the volume and is kind of just going it alone and all that. But he definitely came to mind for me. Part of it, though, separating from the legal saga and all that this year would just be, too, though, that he already, he was the guy on CBS and Undisputed before he ever even launched a podcast. Like, his podcast career, Shannon's, is, within the past 5 years or so, really. Mm-hmm. I think he launched Club Shay Shay during COVID, if I'm not mistaken. So it's very recent for a guy who's in his 60s, so that gives me pause. The other people that I thought of, Matthew Berry, I think is an interesting one. I think he also kind of brings the podcast spirit to, the ESPN Plus show he had was kind of goofy and zany and podcasty, and the NBC show he does now is, it's fantasy football. It's kind of hard not to be. Plus the main one on ESPN that's changed names a couple times. So I like him. Fantasy football, just kills on the podcast charts. There's 10 of those in the top 50, no matter when you look. I think Bomani Jones was kind of a pioneer doing that kind of thing, and still has a pretty big audience. That's kind of all he's currently doing in sports media is his podcast for Wave. Katie Nolan came to mind. Again, similar to Matthew Berry, a lot of the projects she's done have felt like podcasts, even if they weren't. The Garbage Time, the late night show on ESPN. Now she's just doing a podcast for Sirius. That kind of embodies the spirit of what I'm talking about. So you went have another athlete. I felt like Pat filled that niche. So I was thinking we need a creature of the internet type of person, an actual host and commentator type. But it could go either way. I think Shannon's valid. I think JJ's valid. Those three would be my other suggestions.
Well, the other thing I'd kind of default to, I think, innovation here and trailblazers when it comes to this. And so the other names that popped up for me were Dan Le Batard, who you could say followed the Simmons model a little bit, but he had a terrestrial radio show and really pivoted it to podcasting. And so I think there's something to be said for that, because I think a lot of people wound up following that model. I also think
making a local show national by posting it as a podcast. Yeah.
Right. And you look at all the talents that have kind of come up under that brand. I think there's something to be said there. I think Zach Lowe, the idea that we have this incredible NBA writer and he disappears, after he gets laid off, and people miss his podcast more than anything else. And I think Zach Lowe is way better known for the Low Post than or the Zach Lowe Show or whatever it's called now, than he is anything else. I think with this year that Pablo Torre has had, I think he's definitely in the conversation, and it's hey, this is showing that podcasting isn't just kind of this quirky thing that younger people are listening to. Real actual journalism can live here. I think Pablo has a case. So I don't know. It's a lot of strong contenders, but also none across, all probably 20 of the names you and I just Men in Blazers, Spit and Chicklets. There are these shows that have kind of if you follow hockey, you listen to Spit and Chicklets. If you follow soccer, you listen to Men in Blazers. There are these shows that have just embodied entire sports, and become primary tools in the way people follow those. So I don't have a lot of conviction about this. I think really almost any of the names we just listed off are up there.
You have a good case. Well, big surprise. We end up back on Dan Le Batard here on the play-by-play. But, that's a good case. I had been discounting radio people because I just think that's radio. Mm-hmm. So, even Bomani, to me, obviously you could throw Colin Cowherd's name out, Le Batard. Those are radio people. It's a little different. So maybe that disqualifies. Maybe that cuts Le Batard and Bomani off, former radio co-hosts together, if we're paring this down. So I think those sport-specific people deserve a lot of credit. That's kind of what the list is for. They don't belong on the Mount Rushmore. So I feel like we're choosing between two of these people would really enrage a lot of folks in Katie Nolan, Shannon Sharp, and JJ Redick. If we just want to blow over and not have anybody pay any attention, we would just put JJ Redick on there. Like nobody's feelings are going to be hurt by JJ Redick being on this list, but the other two are a little bolder takes. I would and Matthew Berry. He would not make anybody mad either.
Yeah, I don't know. Having 5 white guys on our sports Mount Rushmore, though.
Isn't it 4? Mount Rushmore's 4, right?
Yeah, but we got 2 from the Pardon My Take guys.
Oh, yes. Okay, so yeah, I agree with that. I think we can think a little bigger here, but I think with Shannon, he's not a podcaster. Like he is now, but he was on TV.
But neither's McAfee. Neither's McAfee. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's tough. It's I think it has to be.
This? No one's in the chat chirping and speaking up with their votes. We could put it as a poll. We could have an open 4th slot in our graphic and then let people vote on it. Do we want to do that?
I think so. I think it's like
okay.
Let's take that cop out. Let's say these 3 are solidified. Who is the 4th? Who belongs on here? We'll take some feedback. You and I will circle back. We'll do a show on Monday and we'll circle back and figure this thing out because I need some time to think about this because our imaginary sports podcasting Mount Rushmore is too important to me to let this hang.
It's going to exist in perpetuity and there's no going back and we'll be judged on it for the rest of our lives. So I think we have to take it with that level of seriousness. So yeah, okay, we'll put it on the Awful Announcing X account, which I'm sure people follow. You can vote there, chime in with your fave. We'll consider them or most likely we will not. And then we'll finalize the 4th and /5th final face on the mountain. Sounds good.
Yep. We'll get a nice little AI graphic for it.